What's going on? What's going on? It's your boy. Anyway, I'm back. I want to do a kind of like a part 2 of this Kwame Brown situation. And so, what I want to talk about in this video is who does it affect the least and the most in this situation? Meaning, it was several people that was discussed. There were several people that was discussed that he brought up and he kind of came at throughout the time. Okay, we know in the beginning it was Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson. He came at Stephen A. Smith. He came at Skip Bayless. He came at Charlamagne the God. He came at Rachel Nichols. He came at Jamel Hill. And he came at a little bit at Shannon Sharp a little bit. Chris Broussard, Rob Parker. And that's probably mostly who he came at. Whatever. I can't remember Fat Boy name on the one show that used to be on the show with Marcellus Wiley, but he irrelevant anyway, so nobody really care about him. So let me start with the least person that it's going to affect at the end of the day. The person I feel like out of all these people is probably going to affect the least is probably, like say, a Skip Bayless. Because the stuff he said about Skip Bayless is stuff that we already knew, already been proven, as far as the way he tries to, way he talks about people, how he pretty much, like, if you're thinking, like, look at Skip Bayless. Skip Bayless has made his name off of degrading and talking about athletes since the time he's been on Cold Pizza till now. I mean, he tried, he came at, he gets most of his fame off of talking about LeBron James because he knows it's a narrative out there that people don't like LeBron James. So for him to talk about LeBron James is neither here nor there. But we allow somebody outside our culture to dog our people out like that. But we don't see nothing wrong with that. I can see, not to say that somebody inside our culture should dog anybody out, but we definitely shouldn't let somebody on the outside dog somebody out, and he does that every day, especially somebody that's a positive role model, at least off the court, like LeBron James. You can think whatever you want on the court, but off the court, he's a positive role model, and he tries to manipulate that situation as much as he possibly can, all because he wants to put Michael Jordan on some God pedestal or whatever, like he's the end-all, be-all of everything, and he's not. Michael Jordan played his game, he did his thing. I'm not taking that away from him. I used to be a huge Michael Jordan basketball fan, but that's as far as it goes with being Michael Jordan. Everything else to him, he's a sellout, he's fraud, he's a fraudulent dude. There's a lot of things about Michael Jordan that, for me, I feel like people try to overlook or give him a pass because of how great he was on the court. You know what I'm saying? So we still go out and buy his shoes, even though he cares less about black people. Whatever, he tries to act like he does. He tried like he does in this last go round where he gave $100 million and saying $10 million a year going to what? We still don't even know out of the fact that he makes billions of dollars. So that's a drop in the bucket for him. But at least we know when LeBron James puts his money up, we know exactly where it's going. Michael Jordan put up $100 million, $10 million over the next 10 years. So we don't even know what it, but no calls or whatever. All it was, it's going to the black cause. What black cause? It's like 1 million black causes. So what does that mean? So anyway, but other than that, like Skip Bayless, so he's that dude that basically gets a pass, or he's been dogging out players for years, and he gets his fame off of dogging LeBron James out, bigging up Tom Brady, bigging up Michael Jordan. And then it's funny because I think he feels like LeBron James' career is coming towards the end. So then he started trying to, last year, his narrative was like dogging out Damian Lillard. But then he flip-flops, and one minute you don't like Dame Lillard, but now you feel like, oh, okay, if Portland goes against the Lakers in the playoffs, then Damian Lillard is the guy. You You know what I'm saying? And it's like you so fraudulent because you flip-flop on everything. One minute you didn't like Kawhi Leonard when he left your team, then he's the best thing since sliced bread when he goes to the Clippers and has a chance to knock off for LeBron James. But then if he doesn't do it this year, then it's good. Then what? You know what I'm saying? You're gonna make excuses for why he didn't do it again this year like he didn't do last year. So I think like Skip Bayless, out of all the people he talked about, that Kwame Brown talked about, Skip Bayless is gonna be the least affected by all of this, by all these shots. Next, I feel like probably would be someone like Rachel Nichols. Like Rachel Nichols, for what she said, what she's done, she's covered by ESPN. She basically just kind of like, I think, caught up in the whole thing. But I think everything Kwame Brown is factual and true. But I think somebody like a Rachel Nichols, they'll just let it say, oh well, just don't mention it, don't say nothing about it, it'll go away. She may get some hate mail or some people hating her on Twitter or Instagram or something, and then eventually it'll go away and people will forget all about who Rachel Nichols is. Rachel Nichols is really not that relevant anyway. Like, she's just a cute chick that's on TV that smiles a lot, and you know what I'm saying, and basically they just put her on. I think really she's just on TV on ESPN, like as the host or the host of the show, just for the whole ambiance or the eye candy or the energy. So, because you got all these men and testosterone sitting around, and you need something to kind of fill in. She's not like a Joy Taylor. Like Joy Taylor's, she's fine, but Joy Taylor is more like she actually knows what she's talking about. You know what I'm saying? And because like Molly, I think the only reason why they don't move Molly from like first take is because it'll set a bad message of kind of like making them look bad, like or whatever. And it's kind of like this Me Too movement type thing. So I think they really want to move Molly out of the way, because if you listen to the show on like First Take, they don't even listen to Molly. Molly don't even control the show. Like Max she'll be trying to go into another topic, and Max is just keep talking and whatever, like off the cuff, and you know what I mean, and then they don't even listen to her, and then when she says something, it just be completely off the rail of what they're talking about, and doesn't even relate to what the conversation is going on, or she'll say something, and then you'll be looking at her like, what are you talking about? So, and it's not even had nothing to do with her being a female. It's just because I just don't think she's really good at her job. But I think if they would, at the time, it was so much fuss about moving her from the show that it just, and then the whole thing she did with LeVar Ball was just so sickening to me. Like, the man said what he said, which if you go back and watch the tape of it, LeVar Ball wasn't even being sexual towards her at all, and she made it into something else. And I'm just like, and then had her Jalen confronting him over some BS, all because of the fact they don't like LeVar Ball, because LeVar Ball is a real dude, and they don't like real dudes on TV. They just don't. There's something, especially on something like ESPN, where it's controlled by them good old boys. They want to control these. They got to have house niggas they can control. They can't control LeVar Ball when he comes on there. They can control what he's saying, what he do. Certain niggas they can control the way they can move. That's why a lot of them get fired and have to move over to FS1 or whatever, because at least on FS1 they let you have a little bit more freedom. ESPN don't really let you have freedom. That's why Jamel Hill is gone, and Mike and all them, because they can't control them. See, they can control the Stephen A. Smith, because see, I'm gonna get to him in a minute. So let's move on. So I said Rachel Nichols, and I said Skip Bayless is not gonna really bother. He said something about Jamel Hill. I think like Jamel Hill, she's kind of like out of the way anyway, because when she got removed from ESPN, half the people don't even really know what Jamel Hill does anymore. So it's just like when he brought her name up, I get why, because I kind of agree with what he said. Like, you don't got nothing to do with this. Just stay out of it. This is between us men. Sometimes it's not good for other people that don't know what's going on, or that you just looking up from the outside looking in, and you you saying some stuff that you're not really understanding the bigger picture, stay out of the way. So I think it's not going to affect her in any kind of major way. Now, let's get to the next person. And I would say the next person on the list would be Chris Broussard. Chris Broussard, I like Chris Broussard a lot. I think to me, he's one of the most genuine people when he comes to what he says, and his takes on stuff are not based on feelings. Like, if you look at like a Skip Bayless, he'll take facts and try to make them opinions, and then he'll make opinion into a fact. So I think with Chris Broussard, he mainly takes facts and make them and keep them as facts and whatever. So I think he's more genuine. I don't think he's about just one side or the other. He's more objective than most. I think he's probably the most objective person on the outlet. And I know a lot of people, for whatever reason, they don't like Chris Broussard, whatever, but I think he's the most objective of everybody. You know what I'm saying? For me, just, and that's just in my opinion. I just feel like for me, when I hear Chris Broussard talk among like a Skip Bayless or a Stephen A. or a Max, even Shannon, because Shannon, he a big, LeBron James fan, just like myself. But sometimes he can be more like too much on LeBron James' side or whatever, and kind of be like, oh, I don't know about that one. But I think at the end of the day, his heart is in a good place. In most cases with Shannon Sharp, I think he's a real dude, and his heart is in the right place in most of his situations. And he's the type of guy I feel like he's more or less like, if something about to pop off, or he feel like it's about to be too much, he'll pull himself away from it. Maybe because he know, if I go too deep into this pool, it's gonna get ugly, and I end up losing my job or whatever. Like when he started getting into it with Kevin Durant, it's like, ooh, I'm not that guy for you to keep coming back at like maybe you did with Michael Rappaport. So let me just pull myself away from this, because I'm not about to lose my money over you because you and your feelings. So I get that on that end. But I think, like I said, the way he came at Chris Broussard on, or whatever, like I said, I feel like people already kind of don't like Chris Broussard anyway. So I don't really think it's going to affect how people look at him any differently off of what Kwame said or whatever. So that whole thing, I'm like, okay, it's whatever. Now, getting a little bit deep into the pool. So now we got, let me see who I want to say next. Who I really want to get to on the next one, because I said a few people already. So let's start getting into where it's gonna get real deep. Let's get to like DJ Envy. Let's get into Charlamagne. Let's get into, because I didn't say them two. I didn't say DJ Envy, Charlamagne, and I said Charlamagne, but DJ Envy and Angela Yee. So this is the thing about with them. When he brought up the whole thing with Envy and like, you crying on TV about cheating on your wife and all of that, and whatever the case may be, and this is my thing, and I said it on the last video. Like Envy, I'm not really so much worried about, like, I don't think Envy is really gonna be affected that much. He probably gets feelings hurt because he got sensitive over Damon Dash coming on there talking about how they still have a boss or whatever, and he didn't like that or whatever. So he kind of, and then DJ Envy had issues with other DJs or whatever, when they say something or do something to him, and he gets all his feelings. So I think if anything, DJ Envy feelings may be hurt. That's about it. You know what I'm saying? But other than that, I don't think it's gonna affect him, whatever. Now, Angela Yee, and this is what I always say, I don't get the whole thing with Angela Yee. I never liked her on The Breakfast Club. I don't really like her. I think they kind of force her to be a part of what they got going on. But I think if you because I ain't gonna lie, if you remove Charlamagne from the show, it's not going to last anyway. Because everybody does their part in a different way. But I think Angela Yee, you could put anybody in Angela Yee's place. You could put any other woman there, and I think it'll still run. Or you could put even better women in that position that may fit better. You know what I'm saying? Because I've seen like I look at like Ricky Smiley show. Ricky Smiley had a few different women like on his show that replaced one, one replaced the other, and it still ran smoothly or even better. Like when the Brat came on, I forgot the chick that was on there before the Brat, but when the Brat came on Ricky Smiley show, the Brat actually worked better and had more chemistry with them than I think the last chick did. So I think if you took Angela Yee off and put somebody else in her spot, it makes more sense, especially with the segments they have with Angela Yee. Because they do segments like Ask Angela Yee, and people ask about relationship advice. First of all, how many relationships Angela Yee done had since the show been on? Like 2. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think neither one of them working. I don't know who she dating now, but it's not even, like, first of all, if you're going to even have her answer questions like that, at least let us know what her, like, a lot of times I'm not about people's personal life, but if somebody's giving me advice about relationships, I at least want to know, like, what kind of history they have to be answering those type of questions. You telling me about your friends' relationships and what they went through and all of that ain't giving me no advice on what you went through. That ain't got nothing to do with me. They ain't got nothing to do with you. So what makes you give you be the expert on telling people how to move in a relationship? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't get that part. You know what I'm saying? That don't make no sense. I've been married for 20 years. So what does that make? What does that have to do with a slice of bread for you to be telling me how to move in my relationship? It don't. So at the end of the day, that's crazy. So then you get down, and then they start talking about that, or they be out about their kids, like, yeah, my son ain't acting right, and my daughter or my baby daddy, he be tripping, and da. I'm like, how's she gonna answer that question? Well, I got nieces, and then, do you take care of your nieces? No. You may see them, give them some bread, babysit every now and then, but do you have kids? No. Do you take care of kids, like, in the house with you every day, taking them to school and all that? No. So you ain't on, no, I'm not about to call you and ask you nothing about no relationship, no kids, none of that. Now, if you want to ask me about how these niggas in the streets is, and these rapper niggas, then maybe we can have a conversation. But I ain't know how it is, whatever. I guess the freaky show you got going on, people probably fantasize about you because they think you fine. Me personally, you cute, you alright, you know what I mean, you ain't all that. But hey, it is what it is. Everybody like what they like, But I'm just saying, I wouldn't be sitting around fantasizing about you like, I seen better. But yeah, that's no here nor there. But anyway, so he's saying, anyway, so my thing is, I feel like the Breakfast Club, them two, kind of like, okay, whatever. He said what he said about them. It's funny, ha. Now, let's get to. No, first I get to, because I think Charlamagne is going to be affected the most. So let me get to who I feel like going to be affected the second most out of this, and that's Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith, I used to love him when I first started watching First Take back in the day, because I felt like he was that guy. He spoke my language. When I'm in the barbershop talking sports with my boys and my friends, or at the crib or whatever, that's how I am. Or with my brothers, that's how we are. We real loud and boisterous. You confident in everything we say. Whether we right or wrong, we just into it. You know what I'm saying? And Stephen A. Smith brought the whole thing where he was like an intelligent brother, because he brought all the big words and all that kind of stuff to the conversation. So everybody that likes Stephen A. Smith likes Stephen A. Smith because of that bravado, and because of the confidence he had, and whatever the case may be. But over the years, I'm starting to see how a lot of times I say fame doesn't change you, it just brings out more of who you are. But I think in this particular situation, watching Stephen A. Smith over the years, I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's changed him, and that ego he already kind of had in the beginning just skyrocketed to another level. Because I don't always look. I look and listen to what a person says, and sometimes if a person talks long enough, you'll be able to tell you exactly who they are. I seen him on All the Smoke podcast, which is funny because he basically kind of talked like how he went from just being the sidekick of Skip Bayless to he the man now, he getting more money and he earned it and he can kind of do what he want to do now and blah, blah, blah and whatever. But I think in the midst of all that, he kind of lost the bigger picture because if you notice on a lot of the black issues, Max actually looks more like a brother than he does. Because I remember when they was talking about the whole Colin Kaepernick thing, and Max was kind of like siding with Colin Kaepernick's issue, especially when Colin Kaepernick went up there to Flowery Branch. Flowery Branch was supposed to do the Flowery Branch workout, and he ended up doing it at a high school down in Clayton County where I used to stay at. And he was kind of basically like Stephen A was basically dogging Colin Kaepernick out, and Max was kind of taking up for him. And you know, Stephen A. Smith started talking about the behind the scenes conversations, and Stephen A. Smith made it more about the way it made him look versus what was going on with Colin Kaepernick. And I'm like, how does it become about you? You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, we tried to help him, and we was trying to work it out in the behind the scenes for him, and blah, 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 this, that, and the third. How does that have to do with you? How does this whole narrative, this whole situation turn into Stephen A. Smith being a victim? You know what I'm saying? So at that point, it's like, and then Stephen A. Smith, every time he says something on television about somebody, whether it's Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, LeBron James, whoever, and then they come back at him, then he wants to act like, oh, we can have a conversation, and like how he did Iverson, and then he's like, yeah, or how he did Carmelo, I was wrong, I should have talked to him before I did this and did that. And it's like, bruh, how many times you gonna be wrong and then feel like, I guess he got that attitude. How that saying go? It's better to apologize than ask for permission. So Stephen A. Smith is a perfect example of, I would rather say or do what I want and apologize to you later than to ask you first if I can do something and you tell me no. That's just like with your mom when you're growing up with your mom and your dad. You would rather do something and then get in trouble for it later and then apologize for what you did wrong than ask for permission knowing it's a possibility they're going to tell you no. And that's exactly what Stephen A. Smith is. Stephen A. Smith is a perfect example of that type of brother. I would rather do you wrong and then ask you for apologize for you and ask you for forgiveness, and then but then at the same time, what's so bad about Stephen A. Smith? He'll do something and then it'll be like, well, yeah, I might have been wrong, but I stand on what I did, whether you agree with me or not, blah, 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 or apologize. So it's like, bro, where did stand on it? Just stand on it. Don't try to backpedal and then front pedal and backpedal in the same conversation and then try to act like you big dog and try to act like you all that, like you ready to throw down in the streets and, yeah, if you want to, you can confront me, you can come at me, you can call me on the phone, blah, blah, you can text me, blah, blah, and you try to talk all big dog status when you on television, because you know if one of these dudes in sports come at you in a violent manner, it's going to mess their career up. That's why you talk big dog. That's why you talk the way you talk. You talk the way you talk because you know at the end of the day, if any of these guys come at you crazy beyond a conversation, if they come at you in a threatening manner, let's just say Kevin Durant would have threatened you the way he threatened Michael Rappaport. I guarantee you it would have been more than him a $50,000 fine. It would have probably been a game or two suspension or something because of the network you work for. Not even because of you, but because who you work for and the kind of money that probably ESPN is probably spending or whatever, or making with the NBA. That's what this would boil down to. That's what this would come down to at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? But it was Michael Rappaport. Michael Rappaport really ain't nobody that people really care about like that. So it's like no harm, no foul. You know, here, little movie started, you know, okay, whatever. But if he would have said that to you, and you plugged into this major network, then it would have been a different story. Now, let's say you were independent and were just doing podcasting or something like that on your own, then nobody would care. That's why I said Jemele Hill, she's kind of independent, so she's nobody really gonna care. You know what I'm saying? Like I like Jemele Hill. Don't get me wrong. I respect Jemele Hill, but I'm just telling you from being 100 right now that it's not gonna really affect nothing. Like she's her world, him coming, Kwame Brown coming to her is not gonna affect the overall situation. So next, I would say, or probably last but not least, I would probably say, I was talking about Rob Parker. So Rob Parker the same boat with Chris Broussard. Rob Parker, I ain't never liked Rob Parker. Rob Parker's an idiot. Like I ain't never agreed with nothing Rob Parker said. He always, I don't know, he like the weirdest dude I've ever seen in my life. I got a friend like him. I ain't gonna say his name, but I got a friend that's like Rob Parker. And he say something and you just kind of always look at him side eye like, what is you talking about? You know what I'm saying? I don't. He's like one of the people you like when y'all talk about something and you kind of like start thinking about what you got to do later on when they start talking. That's what Rob Parker is. Like I don't even see how Rob Parker on TV or anything else. Like, you can see that like he irrelevant because he completely, they don't even use him on. He used to be on FS1 all the time on Undisputed. They don't even use him on there no more. ESPN fired him. So it's like all he got left really. I think FS1. They gave him their little podcast or whatever they do on satellite, but then that's about it. It's like, bruh, really? Like I don't even know why we even. I don't even know why you even. What make whatever. Anyway. Last but not least, I'm gonna say Charlamagne. Because this is the thing, and I said this earlier. Charlamagne the guy has gotten away with a whole lot for a whole lot of years. If you watch, and the thing about it is, Kwame Brown said it like, you could go back and pull up videos on a lot of the stuff he's talking about. If you pull up Charlamagne the God, old compilation clips, he is sexually harassing women on their show on a daily basis. And when I used to listen to all these radio shows, the only reason why I would watch The Breakfast Club is because of the interviews. Now I will say this, they ask the best questions out of all the radio shows because they kind of get more deep into it, whatever, because they're a little bit what you call messier than the rest of them. Like, you know, like a Ricky Smiley, he's cool with a lot of these people. So when he has people on his show, I think he knows them on a personal level. So he's more cordial and it's more fun and jovial and blah, ha, ha, key. Same thing with Steve Harvey. He know a lot of these people that come on his show. So they kind of fun loving, and it's just like more of a celebration of their new album, a new TV show, a new movie coming out, blah, blah, blah. When they have people on the Breakfast Club, sometimes they only know these people out. They don't know these people outside of that interview. They don't know them. And so especially when Charlamagne don't know you on a personal level, he can be disrespectful towards the men and the women. That's why he had somebody like Birdman come at him crazy. That's why he had Frejo Starr come at him crazy. That's why he and then he talked disrespectful to some of the women on the show and talked about, can I sniff your chair, and You know, what kind of bra size you got on, and you got on panties and all of that. So who Charlamagne was already presented 10 years ago. Watch old clips of the Breakfast Club. Who Charlamagne the God is was presented 10 years ago. But everybody just thought this was just a little goofy guy that looked like a raccoon before he got this surgery done to his face or whatever that is he got done to his face to make him look more presentable, because I guess he wanted to go more Hollywood so he could start doing other stuff or whatever, because I guess they probably like, bruh, you too ugly for us to use you on anything, so you need to do something with this. And he changed his whole physical look like on a Michael Jackson level for people to kind of fool with him. But in his reason, it worked in his favor or whatever, because, you know, whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, like, you know, I almost see why he probably raped the chick, because if you look how if you don't know who Charlamagne the God is before now, go back to how he looked about 3 years ago. You'd have been like, oh, okay, he probably did have to rape chicks the way he looked. You know what I'm saying? He probably did have to rape with some girls the way he looked, because he wasn't that. He was looking like a science project back in the day. So my thing is, I think he's starting to get exposed for who he really is. And that's why I think why he put that cease and desist order on Kwame Brown. Because think about it. If you're really not touched by that, like I've seen people talk about Charlamagne the God before on the internet. And and this is the first time, and my thing is, you brought that to his front door. You brought that conversation, you brought your opinion to his front door. You seen how Kwame Brown was taking no prisoners on everybody else. But you felt the need, because you wanted to get more clicks and likes and whatever for what you got going on in the Breakfast Club, and probably with your podcasting and all of that other stuff you got going on. You wanted to bring more attention to yourself, and it backfired on you. Now, if people starting to say, we either didn't know nothing about that with the rape thing, or we forgot. And he did get a pass. Like how we overlook Charlamagne on that. So now what? What do we do with this? Huh? What do we do with all of this? So now, if it gets to come too crazy, now what's gonna happen is the radio station might have to step in. Might have to take them off the air. Who knows? Or use them less and less to see what happens. Well, Charlamagne, why don't you stay home this week? We're just gonna do the show with Envy and with DJ Envy and with Angela Yee, just to see how the ratings go. Maybe we'll put somebody else in there, you know, slide somebody else in your spot for a couple of days. Then we'll see what happens. Never know. I'm just saying, stay tuned to that. If you start seeing certain things happen like that, and we know what's going on, they trying to remove him out the picture. If they feel like it's too much energy, negative energy coming towards his way. Because with the girl now coming out and crying, now they can't retry him because, you know, he pleaded to a lesser charge, and she took it the way it was to present it to her. So there's nothing they can really do about that part. But don't be surprised. Don't be surprised. And then going back to Stephen A. Smith, First Take is kind of not the way it was. Like with him, I will say this, him and Skip Bayless chemistry was at a certain level where I think that it was to the roof. Now, Skip Bayless, I think, landed on his feet a little bit better than Stephen A. did. As far as what I mean by that is, well, let me put it to you like this. It benefited Stephen A. more because he has to carry the show with Max, so it made his value look bigger than what it was. But at the same time, it's like this. It's like if you put a great player on a bad team, the player looks better than what they are or looks super great. But then if you remove that player from that team and put them somewhere else, then they may get exposed to not being as great as you thought they were. So to take, for instance, you take a Kevin Love. Kevin Love looked he looked great on Minnesota. Hold on, I'm gonna put the oil gel on my tooth. The tooth hurting, and I'm supposed to be getting one on removed in the back, but it's been killing me the last few months. Sorry about that. Anyway, Kevin Love was the type player, and I'm not dogging Kevin Love out because I'm not gonna make it like a bashing thing, like a Kwame Brown thing, because I like Kevin Love a lot. I like his game. I think he actually gets dogged out more than he should. But anyway, so Kevin Love on Minnesota looked like he was an all-star. Carried the team. They wasn't winning much, but he was the man in Minnesota. He went to Cleveland with Bron and Kyrie. He became the third fiddle, and now it's like, okay, is he really as good as you thought he was? He's still a good player, but is he really? And people say he sacrificed, but overall, is he really that guy? Not to say he's not a good player. That's just like Bosh. And I'm gonna talk about that on another video because I got a whole other platform. I'm gonna get into that whole thing with Bosh, but I just put it like this: I think Bosh is vastly overrated. I think he's vastly overrated. But I'm gonna get into that another time. But anyway, I'm just saying that both of those players, and not to say he's no bum enough because I just don't think that Chris Bosh is a Hall of Fame person. But that's another conversation. But anyway, so I think Stephen A. Smith benefited from his situation with him and Skip splitting, because Max is not really fit. He doesn't really fit that whole. He's not really like. It's like they took that square. This is a circle. Let me see if this square can fit in this circle, and they keep trying to pound it in. And they done took hammers, and so it's like, think about it. You done had to bring other people on, like 3 or 4 other people on a 2-man debate show to help carry the show. So when it was skipping Stephen A., they didn't bring other people on a regular. They didn't have other people with them throughout the show. They might have brought people on for segments, but not like plugged into basically their part of the show. They had to do that to help Max, because Max was like, people were like, oh, he boring, or he talking over your head, or he just, where's this conversation going? So they had to bring, it's just like, and then think about us, nothing else on ESPN other than live sports. So if they're not showing a basketball game or a football game or a baseball game or something like that, then everything else they have is irrelevant. Like, it doesn't really matter. Like, it doesn't really, it's like, okay, all right. Like, especially after the morning stuff, when they start showing just random stuff after that, or Sports Center for the next 5 hours, it's like, okay, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So you start, and then like, we're in a generation now where people start plugging into other stuff. We start looking at other stuff, because like, how many times am I gonna watch the same highlights in the day? I'm gonna watch it one time, I'll move on. I'm not about to watch Sports Center 5 straight hours. You talking about the same 5 topics, 5 straight hours? So, and I think when Skip went over to FS1 with Shannon, what helped him was because Shannon was a different type of personality from Stephen A., but he's funnier, and I think we relate even more with Shannon than we do with Stephen A. But I think with FS1, but I think, because I think at the time, like the first couple years, I'm not sure what the numbers are now, but I think at one time, the first tape was Pilot was doing numbers. They might even still do better numbers than FS1 than Undisputed, because you got to think ESPN is a flagship. They've been around for 40 years. So I think people know more about that than they do Undisputed. Because sometimes I talk to people about Undisputed and they don't really know yet. Because FS1 is still like early in its infancy. It's still like it's a network that's only been around maybe about 10 years or something. Whatever. I don't even know if it's been around that long yet. But it's been around a small amount of years. So people still trying to get used to that, whatever. And so it's taking time people to kind of navigate, okay, this a lot of people like what they like, so they use the first take and all of that, so they kind of ESPN, so they watch that over. But if you watch the two, it's night and day, and they're commentating on their argument over sports, debating over sports, and it's a whole different type of like energy. But I think that benefited Skip because of the fact that he had a person like Shannon that relates to people better than a little bit more than Skip. I mean, than Stephen A. Because Shannon more keeps it real and keeps it funky with you than Stephen A. Stephen A. kind of dances around and whatever, he tried to make it seem like he's real, but he kind of dances around a conversation a lot more. But like I said, at the end of the day, I think we just keep an eye on the Charlamagne situation, because I think it's gone. Because I think he knows that something is going on behind closed doors. For him to get a cease and desist letter, something is going on behind closed doors. Pay attention to that. Because you don't get a cease and desist letter when people have come at Charlamagne before in the past on different stuff, and he's never done a cease and desist letter for as far as I know. Maybe wrong, but I just feel like this is different. For you to do that after what you did to that man, after you came at him, it's kind of weird. Now it's kind of weird. Why would you feel like you got to do a cease and desist on somebody who just really started getting famous off of YouTube? Like that don't even, like this dude's on YouTube all the time talking bad about you, but you wait till now? Like that don't make no sense at all. So keep an eye on that. But anyway, I'm out of here. I'm gonna check y'all on the next one or whatever. But go to my I have my own radio station, COG Radio, on radio.co. Go to radio.co and you'll find COG Radio. We played all kind of different types of music on there. I'm gonna do an episode of 910 Sports and Music. It's coming real soon. I got some other stuff coming down the pipeline. Go to all the platforms. Download my group's album, Dove. I'm not in the group, but my group, my group, Dove, DOV3. It's the best album out right now. It's called, the name of the group is called Dove, but they spell it DOV3. On Spotify, iTunes, Apple, all that. Download the album. It's called Toxic. Very great album. One of the classic albums of the year. One of the best albums you're going to hear all year long. So go check that out. I got a streaming service called Pop IPTV. If you want to subscribe to that, hit me up on that or whatever. What's the number on that one? Big number's 910-585-6090. So that's the number on that. You can hit me up 910-585-6090. That's the number for that. So you can hit me up on that if you want to subscribe to that. But like I say, I'm gonna keep coming with some different topics, different situations, whatever. But I'll see y'all the next time. It's your boy,